I'm enjoying the pack openings. Do you have any decks that you could share? I do. These are some of my decks, and you might notice a lot of these, most of them are standard precons. I do quite enjoy some of the universes beyond, but the one that we're going to be sharing today, which you already know because you've seen the title, is going to be this one. But it's actually in this box. This is my other favorite deck out of some of these universes beyond, and I'm curious if in the comments down below you can guess which deck might be in here. But for today, we're showing off the Frodo and Sam, the Lord of the Riddle Rings, Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth. And right before, as I was setting up my camera to record this, I received a lovely notification from YouTube that we just passed 50 subscribers, which is so exciting, and I'm so grateful for. We still have only just started, and I definitely did not expect to get the traction that we've gotten so far. 2 videos that both have 500 views on them, 1 Pokemon, 1 Magic the Gathering, and this video itself requested from a viewer. So if you are just tuning in, thank you so much. I really appreciate the view, especially as a small YouTuber, and it's just wild to me that there's already 50 of you who have said, I like this and I want to see more of it. So with that said, we gotta do the usual. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Before we take a look at this magic deck, I just want to take a moment and remind you to check in with your body. Go ahead and take a nice deep breath with me. And see how you're feeling all the way from your toes to your nose. Go ahead and stretch your body out. and give it a little shake. And with that out of the way, let's take a look at my Lord of the Rings Commander deck. Now, you might find yourself wondering, well, wait a second. If this is the Commander deck, then what is this? Well, this deck is actually in here. And what is a loved Commander deck without its assorted box of random things that kind of go with it and kind of don't, and maybe will someday get added, and maybe someday won't. So, we're going to start with the deck itself. I'll go through what changes I've made from the original Precon, because I've made some upgrades myself, and then once we finish that up, I'll show you what cards I removed from the Precon. We have some cards from the very last video that need to make its way into this deck, so we're going to do that. And then we'll take a look at my pile of other cards, which is kind of like a maybe board that just has various things in Opson colors that maybe would fit in this deck. I have had a hard time classifying it because in my head, like from a power level standpoint, because in my head it is a minorly upgraded Precon deck. But then I put it in online and it doesn't say it's like, you know, CEDH level. But there's also technically a 2-card combo, but the Precon deck had half of the 2-card combo. So if you're only adding 1 card to complete a 2-card combo, is it that much of an upgrade? I don't know. Some of you are going to immediately know what that means for what's in this deck. And others are about to find out. Okay, so first thing up front, these are tokens, and yeah, that's all tokens, so we'll come back to the tokens in a bit. So, this is the deck. I'm going to put it out like this. And I went through already and organized by type, so it'll be a little organized. The Precons come with these. They kind of remind me of the etched foils. They're not actually like etched. And they're not actually magic cards, they're thicker. However, frustratingly, even though this deck has, it's not companion, because companion has a, oh, it's partner, that's what it is. I always want to call it companion, but there is a mechanic in Magic called companion that is not partner. But for a Precon that had a partner commander in which you could choose either one to play, they only give you one of the like thick cut like show off commander card. And I thought that was a little silly, because that is my intro into saying that even though the deck pushes Frodo, not pushes, but presents Frodo as your primary commander, I prefer starting with Sam. And let's get right into as to why. So, Sam is a 2/4 in green and white with 1 additional, so 3 total. And when Frodo enters, Frodo has the partner ability, so I can search up. Sorry, Frodo, I keep saying that backwards. Sam has the partner ability, so I can search up Frodo from anywhere in my deck and put Frodo into my hand so that I can play him on a later turn. The reason I like getting Sam out first is because this entire deck really revolves around the food economy and how much that you can create, and then how many you can sacrifice to other things, or sacrifice in order to gain life, in order to trigger other things that happen from gaining life, which are cards we'll get into later. So I think getting some of those first food tokens, your first 1 or 2 food tokens out, is so important. And I found the first few times I played this deck that when I was running Frodo, once I got my food economy going, I was churning them out. You know, you got your setup going and everything, but I found the games that I couldn't quite get started, I could never quite get started. So I switched to using Sam with the hope that that smoothed that out, because you get that guaranteed food, and then activating them is that much cheaper. And then it's only 1 turn later that you get to put Frodo out. Frodo is 1 cheaper in the Orzhov colors. And same thing, partner with Sam, so if you are playing Frodo, you can just switch and get Sam. Frodo has Vigilance. It's 1/3. And whenever Frodo, Adventurous Hobbit, attacks, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, conveniently what you get from a food, the ring tempts you. Then, if Frodo is your ring bearer, and the ring has tempted you 2 or more times this game, draw a card. So, let's take a look at what the ring mechanic is. This was a ad from Lord of the Rings, and I think okay. So, the ring gets worn by one of your creatures, and they would come like this. So, I don't know if you can see, but you can kind of hear. There's a perforation, which is how I ended up with this situation. So, as you get tempted by the ring, you move up, almost like the moving through the dungeon cards and various mechanics over the years, where you progress, and as you progress along the card, you get the next benefit. So the first time the ring tempts you, you get to choose a ring bearer, and your ring bearer becomes legendary, and it can no longer be blocked by creatures with greater power. So Frodo, our measly little 1/3, is a great choice. And with Sam, I'm technically a turn later if I want to get the ring cycle going. But I think for this deck to fire more consistently, prioritizing food first, and then getting Frodo out to start getting the hits in once you've got that system going. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's say you hit a second time, and then the ring tempts you, and now whenever your ring bearer attacks, you can draw a card and then discard. The third one, whenever the ring bearer becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller sacrifices it at the end of combat. And finally, when the ring bearer deals combat damage to a player, each opponent loses 3 life. So this thing can get out of hand pretty quickly. And depending on what you've got it attached to, or if you have some equipment also on your creature, it can get kind of interesting. But it has the perforation, so and then there's some additional rules on the back just about the ring can tempt you even if you don't control a creature. It gains its abilities from top to bottom. As the ring tempts you, you get an emblem named the Ring. If you don't have one, then your emblem gains its next ability, and you choose a creature to control to become or remain your ring bearer. So you can swap your ring bearer every time the ring tempts you, and Sam and Frodo very thematically can pass it back and forth. But is the ring mechanic, and that is how you end up with this little ring situation. So, with Sam as my commander and Frodo as his partner, let's take a look at the creature package. Oh, I can't believe I just cut to that. Well, for those of you that recognize what that is, I just spoiled the other half of that 2-card combo. But for those of you that don't know what it is, or maybe don't recognize that printing of it, you'll have to wait because enchantments are going to come down the line. So, we will start off. This is a card that actually looks like it comes from the Precon, but I got it from, I think I opened one pack outside of the Precons, and I just thought it fit also thematically. So, one of my first additions to the deck was also a Lord of the Rings card, Samwise the Stout-Hearted. Sam's a legendary creature for 1 and a white mana, a 2/1 with Flash. When Samwise the Stout-Hearted enters the battlefield, choose up to 1 target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, return it to your hand, then the ring tempts you. So that is Samwise the Stout-Hearted. Next we have Mentor of the Meek, a pretty iconic Magic card. 2 colorless and a white pip for a human soldier. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. Pretty powerful for a 2/2. Pretty fitting for a deck made of hobbitses. And then we have Farmer Cotton. Farmer Cotton is Selesnya colors, a green and a white, and X, so you can pay whatever you want. When Farmer Cotton enters the battlefield, create X 1/1 white halfling creature tokens and X food tokens. Farmer Cotton knows how to rally the folk, and when Farmer Cotton rallies the folk, they show up with a feast. A fantastic card in the deck. Great for getting some bodies on the battlefield. Great for, again, getting that food economy going. You can cast it for 1 right on turn 3 just to get 2 power on the battlefield and have something that you need, or food-wise. Or you can wait and cast it for 4 or 5 later, and next thing you know, you've got a whole army and 10 to 15 lives worth of food tokens that you'll be able to sacrifice to other shenanigans that we are going to get to. Next up, should I try? Go. I'm sure the Lord of the Rings nerds are going to let me know that I got this wrong. But Gwyer, Greatest of the Eagles. 5 mana eagle, just 1 colorless, 4 generic for the legendary creature. Flying when the bird noble attacks. Target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. At the beginning of each end step, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, create a 3/3 white bird token with flying, and whenever this creature attacks, target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. So you might be starting to notice a theme. When you gain life, do X. That is kind of what this deck has going for it. Lobelia, Defender of Bag End. Lobelia looks like the type of woman that you want on your side. She is a 2 colorless and 1 black for a 3 mana 2/2 legendary creature, just like many of the cards in this deck. When Lobelia enters the battlefield, look at the top card of each opponent's library and exile those cards face down. every time you get that each opponent, it is particularly exciting when you're playing Commander, because the difference between one opponent and three makes cards like this quite different. So, what can you do once you've looked at their library? Well, you can tap Lobelia to sacrifice an artifact, maybe one of those food tokens you made off Farmer Cotton, and until end of turn, you can play a card exiled with Lobelia without paying its mana cost. Or, don't see anything you like. Each opponent can lose 2 life, and you can gain 2 life. A little drain and gain, which admittedly is one of my favorite ways to play Magic the Gathering. Here is another one of my additions to the deck, Guillaume, Master Chef. It's a 4-drop for 2 colorless, black and green. Troll Warlock. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures you had enter the battlefield under your control this turn. I can pay 1 and sacrifice a food. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. So now we are starting to see this is an example of one of the payoffs. Once you get the food going, and if you don't need them for the life gain, then you can start to pump them into dudes like this and give some creatures indestructible. So that is one of my additions to the deck, and I got that in the foil from the Commander 21 set. Next up is Feasting Hobbit for 2 mana, Halfling Citizen with Devour Food 3. Haven't seen this mechanic yet. As this enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of foods. This creature enters the battlefield with 3 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. Creatures with power less than Feasting Hobbit's power can't block it. So, late game, you go Farmer Cotton on turn 6, get 4 food tokens, and then Feasting Hobbit with some other 4-drop on turn 7, sacrifice, let's see, you may sacrifice, any number, sacrifice 4 food tokens, get 12 +1/+1 counters, and then it wouldn't be able to be blocked by anything with power less than 14. See, this deck can get into some shenanigans, and I genuinely think it had quite the power level. On its own, just as a precon. Next up, Shire Sheriff. Not Sheriff, Sheriff. Halfling Soldier for 2 mana with Vigilance. When the Shire Sheriff enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a token, maybe one of those foods. When you do, exile target creature and opponent controls until the Sheriff leaves the battlefield. Let's see the flavor text. You're arrested for gate breaking and tearing up of rules, and trespassing and bribing guards with food. That is quite the list of charges that you got yourself there on. Tireless Provisioner, 2 mana and a green. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, create a food or a treasure. And that is a 3/2 elf. Elf Scout. Elf Scout. Scout. Bilbo Birthday Celebrant in the Obzon colors. If you would gain life, gain that much life. +1. just heard a car go by, and it reminded me I heard the cat earlier and didn't say anything, so hopefully you don't mind the jingle, and hopefully that car sound wasn't too loud. I've never been able to pull this off, but if you can get to 111 or more life, and if any of you are watching who haven't played Magic, for context, you start at 20 life. Your goal is to get your opponent down to 0. Most life gain decks aren't. Most decks focused on life gain aren't even getting you to 111 life. So, I don't know what set of circumstances that this would actually arise, but I hope someday I can do this. Anyways, when that day comes, I can pay 5 mana to tap Bilbo and exile him from the party. The birthday celebration is over because I get to search my library for any number of creature cards. Any number of creature cards, and put them onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. If only I had a Craterhoof Behemoth to cast after that. And if any of you have ever played against elves in Legacy, you're gonna know what I mean. That would be funny though. A deck, a life gain deck with an end game that fires off like Legacy elves to fill the battlefield with Bilbo, that then casts Craterhoof Behemoth to give them all haste and all the plus and bonuses that it does. Oh my goodness. And okay, well, that's a stark contrast from the birthday celebration. We have the friend that was not invited to the party. Gollum. Obsessed stalker. Maybe not the friend. Maybe the crazy ex that wasn't invited to the party. Gollum is for sure a legendary creature and a halfling horror indeed. For 1 colorless and 1 black, you get Skulk. Skulk, I don't see too often on Magic cards. This creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. I am a liar. We've seen Skulk on a handful of Magic cards. It is just never used with that keyword. Interesting. I don't know why these other cards say, or like this. And then the ring tempts you. Can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. This creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Why doesn't it just say the ring bearer is legendary and gains Skulk? It wouldn't say, if it was flying, it wouldn't say your ring bearer is legendary and can't be blocked by creatures without reach or that also don't have flying. It would say legendary and has flying. I mean, I guess I literally did just say we never see Skulk, so I have been playing Magic for over a decade, and I didn't know Skulk off the top of my head. So, you know, that being said, I think it's silly that there's all of these spots, and then they put it on this card, but not on the others. Anyways, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent dealt combat damage this game by a creature named Gollum loses life equal to the amount of life you gained this turn. You might notice Gollum is also a uniquely equipped ring bearer. He hated the ring and loved it as he hated and loved himself. Mary, Warden of Isengard. For 1 colorless, a green, and a white. Partner with Pippin. So, we see this for the second time outside of the commander. We'll be getting to Pippin in a little bit. And whenever 1 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white soldier token with lifelink. This ability triggers only once each turn. iconic Magic card, Birds of Paradise. The 0/1 flyer for 1 green. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. And if you ever look at this and find yourself going, what? It's a 0/1. It makes some mana. What's so powerful about that? There is a entire saying in Magic that has been around for years, and it fuels a entire gameplay philosophy, and it's Bolt the Bird. Bolt being Lightning Bolt, a removal spell that came out in the same original set that Birds of Paradise came out. And Birds of Paradise is so powerful because if you cast it on turn 1, then on turn you get to cast something that you could only cast on turn 3. And it is one of those mana ramp, being able to ramp, especially that first creature that provides the ramp, can really make a game spiral out of control. So if you have a removal spell and it's turn 2 and your opponent just played a turn 1, whether it's a Birds of Paradise or a I can't remember the name of the elf that can tap for a green, just keep in mind, Bolt the Bird. Bolt the Bird. It's worth it. We did get a bird out of the Ravnica box that we opened, and I was thinking about if I wanted to swap it out. I do kind of prefer the art on the Ravnica one, but I think I have other plans for that, and I think I'm going to keep this to sticking with the theme. Savvy Hunter. 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 green. Oh, there's the cat again. When Savvy Hunter attacks or blocks, create a food token. You can sacrifice 2 foods, draw a card. Prize Pig. Whenever you gain life, put that many ribbon counters on Prize Pig. Then, if there are 3 or more ribbon counters on Prize Pig, remove those counters and untap it. Add 1 mana of any color. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. 2 mana for an 0/3. Banquet guests. These are the folks that are showing up for the birthday celebration. Affinity, another iconic Magic keyword. Affinity for food. Trample. Banquet guests enters the battlefield with twice X +1/+1 counters on it. You can pay 2, sacrifice a food. Banquet guest gains indestructible until end of turn. Of course, the cat has been asleep next to me on the bed for hours, hasn't moved. And I go to record and she decides that now is the time to start cleaning herself and is jingling. Mirkwood Bats. This is truly one of my favorite types of Magic cards. For 4 mana, a 2/3 flying bat. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. Mirkwood Bats. Rosie Cotton of South Lane. When Rosie Cotton of South Lane enters the battlefield, create a food token. Whenever you create a token, put a +1/+1 counter on that target you control other than Rosie. I really like this card. Treebeard, Gracious Host. A legendary tree folk for 4 mana. Trample Ward 2, meaning if you want to target it with a removal spell. Oh, that 3 mana murder. Actually, it's 5 mana if you're targeting Treebeard. When Treebeard Gracious Host enters the battlefield, create 2 food tokens. Whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on target halfling or tree folk. They work together. The halfling and the tree folk, they work together. Rapacious Guest. Menace for 3. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice food, put a +1/+1 counter on Rapacious Guest. When Rapacious Guest leaves the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to its power. Rapacious Guest. Here is another one of my own additions in foil. One of the more expensive cards in the deck for 6 mana, 4 green mana. You don't see a ton of cards with 4 of the same mana requirement. Troll Noble, a 7/6 Vigilance Trample. When feasting, Troll King enters the battlefield. If you cast it from your hand, sacrifice 3 food tokens. Create 3 food tokens. Then you may sacrifice 3 food tokens. Return Feasting Troll King from the graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only during your turn. Absolute powerhouse. Another absolute powerhouse, even more expensive, Woodfall Primus. Woodfall Primus is 5 mana and 3 green pips. Woodfall Primus is a tree folk shaman with trample. When Woodfall Primus enters the battlefield, destroy target non-creature permanent. Persist. When this creature dies, if it had no -1/-1 counters, return it to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter. You can't kill that tree. Ooh, this next one's a good one. This next one is a favorite addition of mine. We have the very powerful Moondrak Glory Dominus. 2 colorless, 2 white pips. It is a legendary creature straight out of Phyrexia. If 1 or more tokens, like food, would be created under your control, twice that many tokens are created instead. Then I can pay 1, and I don't know if you see that. Those symbols look different from those symbols. If you are not playing during Phyrexia, these are Phyrexian mana cost, and this means you can either pay 1 of the color, so in this case white, or 2 life. So this could be 1 colorless, 1 white, and 2 life, 1 colorless and 4 life, or 1 colorless and 2 white. And if you pay any of those, and then sacrifice 2 other artifacts and or creatures, like maybe those food tokens you made, you get to put an indestructible counter on Moondrak. So it helps you make more tokens, and then those extra tokens that you make can be used to make sure that it sticks around a little bit longer. How can you say no to doubling season on a body? And the reason that I quite like this card, I pulled some of these, like the Feasting Troll King and the Gnome, the Chef. I got those as singles, but the Moondrak I pulled myself, and I pulled it myself because I have been working on my very first attempt at completing a Magic the Gathering set, and it is a set of Phyrexia, All Will Be One. And this is actually borrowed from the binder, and I have it marked there with an island that's written on. And I don't know, I need to sit down and figure out like what percentage I'm at, but I've made some progress, and I love the art style of Phyrexia. So I was pretty excited when I got the chance to take a card out of it and use it in my commander deck, because I know how powerful any duplicating effects are. Next up, Essence Warden. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Pretty simple, pretty great. Prosperous Innkeeper. 1 colorless, 1 green. When Prosperous Innkeeper enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Pippin. So we could have found Pippin earlier when we took a look at Mary, wherever you are right there. Partner with Mary. Now you can pay 1 colorless and tap to create a food token, or tap, sacrifice 4 tokens. Sacrifice 4 food tokens. Other creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain haste until end of turn. So you know what? I don't even need Critter of Behemoth in this deck to pull off my Legacy Elves fantasy. I just need Bilbo Baggins, 111 life, 4 food tokens, and Pippin. Not bad. Gilded Goose, 1 green. When Gilded Goose enters the battlefield, create a food token. I can pay 2 to tap and create a food token, or tap, sacrifice a food, add 1 mana of any color. Gilded Goose. Next creature, Motivated Pony for 5. Trample Haste. When Motivated Pony attacks, attacking creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. If a food enters the battlefield under your control, untap those creatures. They get an additional +2/+2 until end of turn. The Motivated Pony is a 3/3. The Gaffer for 3. At the beginning of each end step, if you gained 3 or more life this turn, draw a card. Great part of the food engine. Because it's also, you don't have to, this is one of the more passive ones where some of the effects you sacrifice the food tokens to get the effect. This one, as long as you gain some life, it happens. If you gained that because you sacrificed food, great. If you gained it because something else happened, great. You still get to draw a card. Another bird, Landroval. Horizon Witness for 5 mana. Flying 3/4. Whenever 2 or more creatures you control attack a player, target attacking creature without flying gains flying. And our last creature is one that I added myself. You maybe got a sneak earlier. Rock's Faith Mender. A 1/5 for 4. The Life Link Rhino Monk. If you would gain life, you gain twice that life instead. I had to choose this card and include it in any life gain deck that I play because this was right around the time that I first started to really take Magic more seriously and go into stores. And around M13, I was going and playing in my local Friday Night Magic events, and I just remember, even right when I first started playing Magic, I loved Orzhov, I loved Life Gain, Life Drain, and this little Rhino that made your life gain that much better, I always had a soft spot in my heart for, so I had to get a Rock's Faith Mender. I will quickly flip through the creatures so that you can see them one more time and get some card sounds. And then we're going to move on to instants and sorceries. Okay, that is all the creatures. Oh my goodness, is that the, no. Alright. I'm gonna cut to the enchantments off to the side, and we'll go through. Instants and sorceries, I believe, are the least changed from the precons. Anguished Unmaking, one of my favorite removal spells. Exile target non-land permanent, you lose 3 life. It does not care what it is, as long as it's not a land, and it is gone. Crypt Incursion. Exile all creature cards from target player's graveyard. You gain 3 life for each card exiled this way. Go for the Throat. Also pretty iconic magic removal spell with a creepy new art. Mortify. Destroy target creature or enchantment. Instant. Path to Exile. Exile target creature, its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put that card on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Path to Exile has had some pretty beautiful variants over the years, different art styles. Another, okay, wow, well, this is just these 2 cards. If I was gonna pick 2 white mana instants for 1 that exile your creature. Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares. I am partial. I quite like the Swords to Plowshares art in the one of the Warhammer 40,000 decks, because it's just got like a Warhammer tank in a field, and I like it. I think they did a good job of capturing the original Swords to Plowshares aesthetic, but then fitting that into the Warhammer science fiction context. Exile target creature, its controller gains life equal to its power. Cultivate. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put 1 onto the battlefield tapped, the other into your hand. Smooths out your draw a little bit. Make sure you can get whatever colors you need. Oh, we got a split card. Dusk. Now, okay, actually, I don't know if these are called split cards, because the split cards are the ones where it's on both sides going in the same direction. So, Dawn for 2 colorless and 2 white. Destroy all creatures power 3 or greater. Or, sorry, Dusk. Dawn for 3 and 2 colorless. Aftermath, cast only from your graveyard. Return all creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Farseek. Search your library for any kind of land except for forest. Put it on the battlefield tapped. Shuffle. Fell of the Mighty. Destroy all creatures with power greater than target creature's power. Fumigate. Destroy all creatures. You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. Anyone notice a theme? Harmonize. Draw 3 cards. We love to draw 3 cards. Many Magic pros will tell you that the draw step is the best phase of Magic. Revive the Shire. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Create a food token. Toxic Deluge. As an additional cost to cast the spell, pay X life. Pfft, what do I care? I've gained all this life. Target creatures get -X until end of turn. And last, Painful Truths. This is one that I added, and it was being played at a time when a certain Abzan deck of the same 3 colors was very powerful in Standard. And so playing an Abzan deck in Commander, I felt Painful Truths was a fitting addition from that time. You draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of colors of mana spent to cast Painful Truths. So if you line it up right, you do white, green, black, pay 3 life, draw 3 cards. Oh, let me flip through those. Okay. Enchantments. Ooh, a little bit of a land leak there. I'm actually going to grab enchantments and artifacts, and we'll just do those in one go. So, call for Unity. 5 mana, Revolt. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield, put a Unity counter on Call for Unity. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each Unity counter. It just gets bigger. Dawn of Hope. I love the art on this. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. Pay 4, create a 1/1 lifelink. White Soldier. Of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit. This must be some of the types of food. It is a saga, so it comes in and starts at level 1 and then moves up. On the first turn you cast it, you put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. 1 target creature. Create a food token. On turn 2, draw a card, create another food token. On turn 3, create a 1/1 white halfling creature for each food you control. So, if you time this correctly, you will have far more than just 2 food tokens on the table in order to get that benefit on turn 3. And after turn 3, nothing. It's useless. It just sits there. Sanguine Bond. Now, this is it. This is the 1 of 2 required for the infinite combo win condition. And this is the half that comes in the deck. For 3 colorless and 2 black, you get the enchantment. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. You all have seen how much life gain is in this deck, so that's pretty great. But it gets even better when you follow your Sanguine Bond up with an exquisite blood. Exquisite blood, whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. And if you notice, that kind of causes a circle. And there's no end once you're on that circle. So I'd like to sacrifice a food token so that I can gain 3 life, so that my opponent can lose 3 life, and so that my opponent can lose 3 life so that I can gain 3 life, so that my opponent can lose 3 life, so that I can gain 3 life, so that my opponent can lose 3 life, so that I can gain 3 life. Now earlier I said I spoiled the combo if you didn't know what it was, because you might have been able to recognize this card, but maybe not the printing. And that is because you notice the name here, Exquisite Blood, is the official Magic name for this rule. If you look up Exquisite Blood, other cards come up that have this rule. There's no other card called Hunger of the Ancient One, because they made this as a secret lair. So it has this, like, this is the name for the style and the theme, but then this is the name for the rules. So it is Hunger of the Ancient One, Exquisite Blood, and Exquisite Blood plus Sanguine Bond is GG. Thanks for playing. On to the artifacts. Arcane Signet for 2. Iconic Commander icon. Iconic. It is an iconic commander icon of iconic artifact iconography that is iconic because of its icons as a artifact. Anyways, I don't know if I'm gonna keep that in. You can get a color in whatever color you're playing. Everybody plays Arcane Signet. Speaking of cards everybody plays, Chromatic Lantern. You can lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, and you can tap to add 1 mana of any color. So you play this on turn 3, and not only can you start tapping the lantern itself, but you also can now use your 7 planes and tap them for any color under the sun, even purple mana. And that mana color doesn't even exist in Magic, but any color. It says any color, so make it up. Rainbow mana. Polka dot striped mana. Pink mana with a purple swirl. The world is your oyster. Commander Sphere. It's getting late. I'm getting tired. And we're getting goofy. You can tap to add 1 mana in your commander's color identity. Sacrifice Commander's Sphere. Draw a card. I like this card. Field Tested Frying Pan. It's an equipment. When Field Tested Frying Pan enters the battlefield, create a food token, then create a 1/1 white halfling creature and attach the frying pan to it. Hookup creature has, whenever you gain life, this creature gets +X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gained. Pretty fun little equipment. Plus, I can send Sam running after you with a frying pan. And if I don't succeed, I just drop an infinite life game combo on you. Soul Ring, the other iconic icon of iconic artifacts. That word's gonna get banned from my vocabulary. 1 mana, you can tap it to get 2 mana. Stocks go up, baby. Doesn't get better than that. Hit Lane Rope. This one's pretty fun. It's kind of a funky card. It cannot be sacrificed. You can tap 1. You can pay 1 and tap it to search for a basic land and put it on the battlefield. Then the player to your right, not to the left, to the right, gains control of the rope. So here you go. But let's say it makes it all the way back around the table so we can finish reading it. The other thing is you can tap and pay 2 to draw a card. The player to your right gains control of Hit Lane Rope. So, it just keeps going around the table. And as it goes around the table, people can get their lands or people can get their draw. And if someone decides not to use it, they just sit on it forever. But the moment they use it, it gets, whoop. I didn't mean to do that, but it gets passed. Hopefully with less aggression than I just did to the next person. Next up, Trading Post. Pretty fun card. 4 mana artifact. Can do a bunch of things. I can discard a card to gain 4 life. I can pay a life to create a goat creature token. I can sacrifice a creature to return an artifact from my graveyard to my hand, or sacrifice an artifact to draw a card. And food tokens are artifacts. Next up, this is clearly an addition that I made. Aetherflux Reservoir for 4. This is another, I haven't pulled this off either. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. It's like life gain storm. And then, if you have 50 life, well, 51 life, you can pay 50 to deal 50 to any target, which is just, I think it's super fun. So, Aetherflux Reservoir, in the, I forget what these are called, like the retro, it's retro border and then the blueprint style from Brothers War. Last artifact, Well of Lost Dreams for 4. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained. If you do, draw X cards. And now I will show off the artifacts and enchantments. Okay. Our last chunk of the deck here is our land. And this is the section that has the most upgrades to it. We have Command Tower. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Woodland Cemetery. Enters tapped unless you control a swamp or a forest, and then it can tap for black or green. Black or green. Oh my goodness, can you hear the cat snoring? Necroblossom Snarl. As Necroblossom enters the battlefield, you may reveal a swamp or forest card from your hand. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. Tap for black or green mana. Plains. Shine Shadow Snarl. It's the same, reveal a plains or a swamp, or enters tapped, and then you can tap for white or black. Swamp. Scoured Barrens. Enters the battlefield tapped. but you gain a life. Tap for white or black. Here's an addition. Temple Garden. This is the Return to Ravnica printing, so not the first one, but the second one. This is from the series of lands called Shocklands. They are called Shocklands because when you play them, you have the choice to shock yourself for 2 life. And if you do, it enters the battlefield untapped, and you can use it that turn. But if you say, nope, I'm going to save the life, it comes in tapped. And the great thing about Shocklands is not only that they give you the choice, but they have the tag forest and plains, which means when we get to fetch lands, you can search them. So Shocklands, they are forests and plains. They can tap for both. Meanwhile, something like Woodland Cemetery, it can tap for 2 colors, but you'll notice it is missing forest and plains, and that is an important distinction that will come up in a bit. Temple Garden. It will come up in a bit. It will come up as the next card. The reason that that is important is because fetch lands allow you to find lands in your deck and bring them to your hand, or bring them to the battlefield. So, by being a forest or a plains, if I have a card like Marsh Flats, which I can pay 1 life and sacrifice to search for a plains or a swamp, I can put it on the battlefield and then shuffle. So, I have a Marsh Flats. It's a black or white, presumably, land. I pay 1 life, I sacrifice it, and I say, I'm going to look for a plains. That goes to the graveyard. I dig Temple Garden out of my deck, and I get to play that. I go, I'm going to pay the 2 life. It comes in untapped. And the Marsh Flats that can search for a plains or a swamp is now enabling me to pay green mana. So, that is the power of the fetch land, shock land combo. And I upgraded this deck to have the 3 shock lands and the 3 fetch lands, and we'll get to those in a bit. So, the Return to Ravnica art style, and then on the Marsh Flats, this is the retro border from Modern Horizons, I think 2. I'm pretty sure it's Modern Horizons 2, but the etched foil with the retro border. And I don't even care that it's like a modern redo of the retro border. The foils on the retro border just look incredible, especially given how rare it was to actually pull what was Marsh Flats, I think was Onslaught. So your likelihood of pulling just a single foil rare was 1 out of every 36 packs, and the likelihood that that rare was going to be at Marsh Flats, very low. So anytime you see, whether it's original old foils or the modern old retro frame, but in foil, I'm such a sucker for that. Next up, Rogue's Passage. It can do colorless or pay 4 so that a creature cannot be blocked, which is great for the ring or forcing through some damage. Forest. Fortified Village. When it enters, you can reveal forest or plains just like those others. Tap for green or white, but you'll notice, not fetchable. I keep trying to make fetch happen, but only Magic players say it. That is going to be a weird the Venn diagram of Magic the Gathering players and fetch referencers. Anyways, Ghost Quarter. Sacrifice Ghost Quarter. Destroy target land. This can be great if the other player has a land that is enabling them to do something powerful that is not adding mana to their pool. And if they do that, they just have to swap it out for a basic land. A mountain, a swamp, whatever. Isolated Chapel. When it enters the battlefield, tapped unless you already control a plains or a swamp. And in this case, the Temple Garden would cover the plains requirement, but the Fortified Village would not. Here we go, another fetch land in that beautiful foil retro frame, Verdant Catacombs. You can tap to pay 1 to get a swamp or a forest. The fetch land, shockland package is probably my favorite addition to the deck. It's like the first thing that I want to do to any precon is get the shockland in that's in the right colors and get the fetch land in the right colors. Path of Ancestry. Enters the battlefield tapped. 1 mana of any color in your commander's identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. Forest. Plains. Razor Verge Thicket. Another land that I have added. This is also from my... it's not my favorite set, but it's one of my favorites from an art perspective. Phyrexia All Will Be One. You have to let me know if you want to see like a binder walkthrough of my Phyrexia collection and how far along I am and what cards I'm still missing. So Razorverge Thicket is cool because if you are playing it early in the game, when you have 2 or fewer other lands, it's untapped. So at the start of the game, it's right there to help you out. You can use it immediately. But later on in the game, turn 4, turn 5, you already have lands on the battlefield, and it comes in tapped. Sandstep Citadel comes in tapped, but it can be any 3 of your colors. Forest. And here we go. Overgrown Tomb. This is the Galaxy Overgrown Tomb in foil. Not the Galaxy foil, but a foil of the Galaxy art. And this is from Unfinity. I love these shocklands, but part of this video is actually going to be taking this shockland out, and we're going to get to that in just a second. Brushland. This is a pain land, because if you want to get color out of it, you have to pay 1 damage to yourself. Otherwise, you can tap it and get colorless. Plains. Sacred Groves enters the battlefield tapped, or you can cycle for 2. Discard a card, discard, draw a card. Great for late game if you're flooded and you don't need another land. Sunpetal Grove. Plains. Swamp. Forest. Exotic Orchard. Add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. And there it is. The Galaxy Godless Shrine foil. The other shockland that will be removed from this deck. Swamp. Grey Pelt Refuge enters tapped to gain a life. Canopy Vista enters tapped unless you control 2 or more. This is the opposite of the other one. Comes in tapped early game, comes in untapped late game. Swamp. Forest. And the final fetch land, Windswept Heath. let me go ahead and flip through the lands, and then we'll get into some of the remaining upgrades. Alright, now you may have noticed I put these off to the side. I love these lands. I think they are beautiful, but some things have arrived that make me think they don't quite fit the theme. Actually, before I go into that, let me just quickly show the other tokens, because I said I would do that. So, there's the Frodo, the ring, and then a bunch of treasure tokens, goats, food, and then some of these are also tree folk, lifelink soldiers, the birds, halflings. Okay. Now, okay. Inside, I have a bunch of these little cardboard things with the magic symbol on them. They come in bundles and things like that, and I like to hold on to them because they are great generic token placeholders, since you can still tap them. And I like, if someone, this could be a 3/3 toad or a 1/1 soldier or a treasure token. Obviously better to have the token, but I don't know. Little stand-in. Next, we have the cards that I removed from the Precon. So, some lands, Shire Terrace, some artifacts. Most of the things that were taken out were replaced with something of the same type. And then I took out most of the Tree Folk Ent package just because it was the best thing to remove to make room for some of the other stuff that I wanted to add. Night's Whisper got swapped out with the Painful Truths. A little bit more expensive, but a little bit more powerful. A land that checks for Tree Folk. I removed a bunch of Tree Folk. Tree Folk. Generous End. Come on, camera. There we go. And then Basic Forest, Evolving Wilds, Eagles of the North, Butterbur. This is probably the Precon card that I was the most unsure about removing. But if it was one cheaper, I would not remove it. 4 mana is just kind of expensive. If you don't have a food, you create one, but that's only for your first if you don't have one. So if you've already got a ton of food going, it doesn't really do much. And if you're already on turn 4 and you don't have any food, that's not necessarily great. So I like the card a lot, but I don't know. Convince me. If it's a better card than I'm evaluating it, I'd love to know. Assembly and Moot. Ash Barrens. Access Tunnel. So, those are all of the 15 cards, I think, that are in the Precon that I swapped out. And then we have, oh, here's some land inspiration. So, right now, you'll notice that the basics are all just, that was perfect. The ones from the deck. What I would like to do is swap them out for the Bloomborough basics, because I did a Bloomborough draft and got some of these, and I also opened some packs, and I just think they look so cool. So I have some examples: the forest, the plains, forest in a different season, forest. So I really would like to swap the basics out for these. And then if I was ever gonna be like a baller and I just didn't care and had endless money, you know, my little Magic the Gathering ASMR YouTube channel is getting hundreds of thousands of views and everything is coming up MaplePi. These are the lands I'd really like to use. These are the Euro lands, and they're a pretty beautiful part of Magic's history, in my opinion. So the plains is, you can see, the Scottish Highlands, 1999. So it's been a minute since these were printed. And then the forest. Look at this beautiful forest. Look at that. I don't know how to say it, but it's in France. There was also another set of lands called the APAC lands. And I forget which one it was, but one or maybe both, they originally were sealed in these like tinted blue cellophane packages. And a lot of times people would sell them, if they still had them, they'd sell them like in the package. But I love the Eurolands. I think they're one of my favorite land cycles, but I'm not alone, and they're expensive. So until we get to pimping out a whole deck of Eurolands, I want to do the Bloomborough ones, because I think they would fit. Speaking of lands fitting thematically, that brings us to why these need to go. They're wonderful, but they're space themed. And there's not much about Lord of the Rings that is space themed. I would argue Lord of the Rings is quite, well, okay, I don't know if it's actually low fantasy, and I know there's a bunch of specific designations about what makes something a certain type of fantasy, but there's no space travel. So I think the Godless Shrine for sure, and then the Overgrown Tomb maybe in the future. But the Godless Shrine, it already has another home. That's going to be another video. I have another commander deck that is far more space themed than the Lord of the Rings one. So I think it would fit there. Which means I get to put 2 pulls from our previous video. These came out of the Ravnica Remastered box, and I'm so excited to swap them out. So gonna do Godless Shrine for Godless Shrine. And actually, I'm gonna put this in, well, I'll just put it in this. I was thinking I was gonna swap to a top loader, but I'll do that later. And then, same thing. Goodbye to the beautiful godless shrine and overgrown tomb. See you next time. And in their place, we have the retro border standard non-foil godless shrine, and then the retro border foil overgrown tomb. And in my opinion, that is going to make the package of, well, other than the green-white, it's going to make the package of shocklands and fetchlands that much better. Because they're a little bit more in theme. So, retro border shockland, retro border fetchland, retro border shockland, fetchland. And two of these things are not like the other. But I think on its own, just that, this is way more Lord of the Rings than this. So I'm pretty excited. Even if technically that's like a downgrade, but these are gonna still get love. Okay, so those are the lands. We've made those changes. What else do we have? This also came out of Ravnica. The Illusionist Bracers. I was thinking about putting this in. I don't know. Whenever an ability of an equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability. You may choose new targets. Quick little tidbit for little rules tidbit for you. I had a really hard time understanding the difference between activated abilities and triggered abilities. Illusionist Bracers helps activated abilities. Now, a little trick for identifying when something is an activated ability versus when it is a triggered ability is, there's a card that demonstrates this perfectly. This is the perfect card. Okay. If you want to know if something is triggered or activated, look for the semicolon. So, when Gilded Goose enters the battlefield, create a food token. This has a when, which means something's being triggered. It's a triggered ability. There is no semicolon. Gilded Goose enters. When the goose enters, a trigger goes on the stack, and that trigger is to create a food token. Activated abilities do not go on the stack. They just happen. And they happen with a semicolon. So, this does not have a trigger activating it. The trigger is you activating it. You pay 1 and a green and tap semicolon activated ability, create a food token. So, if Illusionist Bracers were attached as an equipment, I could tap, create a food token, and get a second one. Now, semicolon, activated ability. However, this one, tap, sacrifice food, semicolon, all good. This is where it changes. Add 1 mana. That automatically makes it a mana ability because it's an activated ability that produces mana, which means I cannot copy it according to Illusionist's Bracers. So, there's that little lesson on those. Let's go through some of these cards and see if any of them should make their way into the deck. Illusionist Bracers is an artifact equipment. Tomic. Tulsimir Wolfblood. Oh, different overgrown tomb, but I like the one that we went with. I think, especially because it matches, I think this one. And then, oh, I do kind of, so since this is Life Gain deck, I came across this in my collection. Pain's Reward. It's an older card. Bid any amount of life in turn order. Each player may top the high bid. The bidding ends if the high bidder stands. High bidder loses life equal to the high bid and draws 4 cards. I thought it would kind of create some fun table shenanigans, so here I'm going to say leaning towards Illusionist Bracers, Pain's Reward. I don't know, what do you think? Should Tulsimir be in the deck? I haven't decided. Caretaker's Talent. Whenever one or more tokens enter, draw a card. I think Caretaker's Talent should probably end up in the deck. For the common good, create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. Then tokens you control gain indestructible. Pretty cool card. I don't know if this is the deck it fits in, or at least not in its current state. Tender Wild Guide is some mana ramp. The cat just snored. Some mana ramp, but actually now that I've gone through the creatures, I think there's enough ramp. Camellia the Seed Miser. Other squirrels have menace. Whenever you sacrifice a food, create a squirrel token. I think that fits. Dig Up is card advantage, allows you to search for what you'd like. Maybe. Elven Chorus is also from Lord of the Rings. This actually, I'm going to say no to Dig Up, and I'm going to say yes to Elven Chorus. Open the Way. I did want to try and include Open the Way. Caves of Koilos is land. We want to get that in there. I don't know that I'm feeling Essence. I'm going to say no to Druids. I'm going to say no to Death's Presence. Resolute Archangel. Oh, I do like this one. I don't think I need it though. Mana Bloom. I do want the Underworld Connections and the Oron Viper. I'm going to skip the removal and Banishing Light. I definitely want to include the Yagara. I think we have enough sweepers. You may play lands from your graveyard. I don't think this really fits the deck. Enduring Vitality. Creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Pretty cool. But I think not. Leyline of the Void. Lyra Dawnbringer. Wandering Rescuer. Twitching Doll. Maybe Twitching Doll. Come Back Wrong. Some removal. Maybe on the removal. Life Creed Duo. Okay, let's go through by category and see if there's anything we want to swap out here. So, first I'm going to do the lands. Painland, I think we just take, let's see, do we have any lands that come in tapped that are black or white? Otherwise, it's going to be a forest or a swamp. Isolated Chapel. So, I could do the check land. I think we leave that in. The Lifeland. I think we leave that in. I'm going to leave the Rogue's Passage in too, so I'm inclined to pull out a swamp and add Caves of Koilos. And then I'll pull out a Plains for Vegavoth's lair. Those are removed. Two new additions to the lands. And then let's organize these. We have creature, creature, sorcery, creature, 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 enchantment, sorcery, enchantment, creature, enchantment, sorcery, artifact. Let's start with the artifacts and see if there's anything. I might take the rope out. It's either that or the only other equipment is the frying pan. But the frying pan's kind of cool. I do like the possibility of table shenanigans from the rope, but I think I want to get some trigger copying happening. I want to. It's the Oh, speaking of the foil retro frame, Illusionist Bracers is the Xerox machine of activated abilities, and I want it in my deck. So that's all the artifacts. I have enchantments right here, so we'll look at those. Caretaker's Talent, Elven Chorus, Underworld Connections. One is card advantage. One is card advantage and mana fixing. One is card advantage and creature buffing. Leads me to believe Underworld Connections probably doesn't make the cut as much as this holds a soft spot in my heart. I love this card. Let's see. Call for Unity. That kind of could fit Caretaker's role once it hits level 3. Dawn of Hope. Whenever you gain life, you can pay 2. Put a +1/+1 on up to 1 target creature, create a food. Draw a card, create a food, create a 1/1 for all your foods. Okay, well, definitely not these. Okay. Underworld Connections, as much as I love it, is not going to make it into the deck today. So I think I'm going to replace... should I replace the Saga for the class? I do kind of like the Saga. Call for Unity. The Call for Unity does end up getting insanely big. But okay. I'm going to take out Dawn of Hope. And add Caretaker's Talent. And I'm going to take out Call for Unity and add Elven Chorus. So Elven Chorus allows me to look at the top card of my library, cast creature spells from the top of my library, and tap creatures for mana. Caretaker's Talent helps me draw some cards when I make tokens, allows me to copy a token, and then gives a creature token. It's not creatures, it's creature tokens. There's some creature tokens. So what's better, drawing cards when tokens enter, or but only buffing creature tokens, or no card draw, but buffing everything? And it's only if a permanent left the battlefield. I'm gonna stick with this. I'm gonna stick with this. So, herbs, stewed rabbit, stays, chorus, caretaker's talent, in. Next up, let's do the creatures. So, I really want Camellia to make it into the deck. And I really want the Yagra. They are both food-related Bloomburrow cards. I want the Orin because I think it'd be a great ring bearer in the same way that Frodo is, as a 1-3. I'm going to say no to Twitching Doll, just because it's just pretty generic token creation and mana. Life Creed Duo, Baker's Bane Duo. Baker's Bane creates a food. I think I'm going to say no to this. Just a little, it's fine, but just doesn't feel necessary. So, can I find 4 creature spots? Let's take a look. So what roles are they filling? This one, this card, all the way from Cold Snap. I pulled it myself back when they were fat packs and not bundles. Snow Snake. Whenever Orin Viper deals combat damage to a player, destroy, or deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature at the end of combat. Kind of like Death Touch. Whenever Orin Viper deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. So I was thinking that would be great if it then can't be blocked. And then you just get to get in and get those card draws. So, Orin Viper, Ring Bearer, card draw. Squirrel is a food. It doesn't make food, but if it is out when you sacrifice food, it is beneficial. This is life gain for whenever a creature enters. And this is like food bomb, just powerful food card. So let's see. I think I'm leaning towards these 3 over the Camellia, but let's unless I wanted to swap Prize Pig out for Twitching Doll. No, I do not. I had to think about it. Okay, Essence Warden. Whenever another creature enters, yeah, so those do the same thing. I might swap out Samwise. Landfall. The Sheriff. Pippin. Okay, I made a bit of a mess, but let me talk through what I'm thinking. I pulled out some things that I maybe am open to taking out. And then I pulled out some things that do similar things. So, Mirkwood Bats, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses one. But here we go. The Innkeeper and yeah, so the Innkeeper. Okay, it took a minute to figure out what I was actually wanting there, but I think I've picked out 3 cards that I'm going to take out. So, the Landroval Horizon Witness, that gives creatures flying. Motivated Pony, and Shire Sheriff. So, Sheriff is coming out for Life Creed Duo. The foil, I do love this, the art on this. The Yagra. Is going in for the Motivated Pony. And my old school Cold Snap Orin Viper is going in for the Landroval. Taking those out. I don't think we'll put the Camellia in this time. So that leaves one last chunk. Those are our instants and sorceries. And then we'll do a final deck flip through. Payne's Reward, I think, would be fun. Open the Way is land value, like land card advantage. Come Back Wrong is just kind of a fun removal. Actually, I'm going to decide right now, Come Back Wrong does not fit the theme of this deck. And if I'm going to put in a deck, it more likely fits in the deck that the Godless Shrine might be going in. So, I'm just looking for 2 sorceries. Card advantage and multiplayer shenanigans. So, I don't want to take out any removal. No sweepers. Removal. Removal. Now let's see. Cultivate for 3. Search your library for 2 basic lands, 1 in your hand, 1 on the battlefield. If I cast this for the same cost, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal 1 land. Put those lands on the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library. So if I cast it for the same amount, I get 1 less land. But if I can pay 4, I end up with 2 lands on the battlefield. I don't think that's better. I like the art more, and I think it's a cool looking card, but I don't think it's better than Cultivate. So unless we find something worse. Dusk Dawn. Oh, Farseek. No, it's so cheap. I can't replace Farseek. Sweeper. Fumigate. Harmonize. Revive the Shire. Toxic Deluge. Painful Truths. Okay. Well, Harmonize draws 3 cards for 4. Pain's Reward draws 4 cards for 3 as long as we win the bid. And since we're going to be gaining life, we'll probably be willing to bid more life. So, Harmonize is out. And my foil Pain's Reward is in. And then let's see. Yeah, okay, last look. Cultivate. It would be one of these. Revive the Shire, Farseek, or Cultivate. It says 2. Oh, okay, so this is basic. This is non-basic. This doesn't have to be basic. Until you reveal X lands. Reveal cards off the top of your library until you reveal X lands. Put those lands onto the battlefield tapped. It is... I'm going to try it. I might end up switching it back, but I'm going to try it. Taking out the Cultivate and putting in Open the Way. And that's from, I think this is March of the Machine Aftermath, if I remember correctly. So, that is that. Okay. These are the cards being added to the removed from the Precon pile. Okay, and now as we are coming to the end of showing off the deck, I'm going to give it some shuffles so that we can get some card sounds. And then I think I'll goldfish a couple of hands so that you can see what the first couple of turns might look like. And then after that, I'm going to have to say thank you for watching. This is the worst part about Commander. Alright, let's do a quick pile shuffle. It is the last thing you want to see from your opponent when you are on time for a match. But if you're just trying to relax, then enjoy. Would you like to cut my deck? No? Okay. We have our commander. And our opening draw. Uh-oh. Who shuffled this ridiculousness? It's a mulligan, but I'm drawing 7 because we're just playing goldfish. That's not the best, but let's pretend our opponent can play green. So, opponent opens, turn 1, forest. Great. Exotic orchard, gilded goose. I get a food token. Pass turn. Untap. Oh, bolt the bird. Gilded goose is dead. Draw for turn. Farmer cotton. Well of lost dreams. Aether flux. Not much I can do just yet. I have a lot of sweepers, but I'll play the Rogue's Passage, and then I'll use it to tap 1 for the Soul Ring, and then I will pass the turn. You get some creatures on the battlefield. I draw for turn. We have banquet guests. Let's see. I have access to 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. But I only have access to 1 color, so you're out. I can cast Well of Lost Dreams or the Aether Flux. I think the Aether Flux because it benefits things as we go. So, whenever I cast a spell, I'm going to gain a life for each spell I've cast. Pass turn, we're going to pretend our opponent is having a pretty quiet start as well. And draw for turn, huge draw. Scattered Crows. It enters tapped, which gives us 4 mana so that we can cast Will of Lost Dreams. When I cast Will of Lost Dreams, I'm going to gain a life, 1 life off the spell. And when I gain life, I can pay X, but I don't have X to pay. So we are building up our artifacts. Draw for turn, a nice swamp off the top. That's huge. We've got access to all of our colors now. And I think it is, let's see, would I want to get a bunch of food going? I think so. So we're going to do the green from your commander, which I'm very grateful for, and the white on Scattered Grove. 1, 2, 3/4. Allows me to play Farmer Cotton for 4. So I'm going to get 4 more food tokens. A lot of food tokens. And white halflings. Do I have halflings? I do. Got creatures, artifacts. 1, 2, 3. Oh, these are humans, not halflings. Well, we are just gonna have to pretend they are halflings. And just like that, it was a slow start. But from playing Farmer Cotton, I'm gonna gain a life off the Aether Flux. I didn't leave myself mana available for the Will of Lost Dreams, but I have now got a whole bunch of creatures, a whole bunch of food. Let's say next turn you use a sweeper. Very reasonable of you. No more creatures, but that's okay, because I have a bunch of mana available and a bunch of food. I'm going to draw for turn. I get a land. Let me play that land. And I think it is time for Banquet Guests. Affinity for food. It costs 1 less for each food I control. I have 5 food. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll actually just do 4. So here's my thought. I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. Affinity for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then green and white, I have to pay 1 off the brush land, but I now cast Banquet Guests for 9, which means it enters with 18 +1/+1 counters on it. So I now have an 18/18 trample. When I cast a spell, I'm going to gain a life for the spell that I've cast. When I gain a life off of Aether Flux Reservoir, I'm going to pay 1 for Will of Lost Dreams. And I'm going to draw a card. Now I've got my 18/18. Okay, you kill that because you've got all the removal. That's fine. I'll play a swamp. I'll pay 5 for Sanguine Bond. When I gain life, when I gain life for casting it, I'll pay 1 to draw a card. I draw the Rapacious Guest. I'm going to pay 2, sacrifice a food token. I'm going to gain 3 life. When I gain 3 life, Sanguine Bond, you're going to lose 3 life. Next turn, we untap. You just played a bomb of a Planeswalker. I'm staring it down, and it is going to be tough to respond to. But I'm going to draw for turn. I was really looking forward to finding my combo piece, but I didn't quite find it. So instead, I will drop cards off the table. I'll play Rapacious Guest, and then I'll pay 3 for the Tireless Provisioner. And now I'm out of hands, or out of cards in my hand. But that is about how the deck plays. A little bit of a funky intro for that goldfish with getting all the artifacts up front. So in theory we would have had something like these two to have stuck around earlier. But that's how it plays. Create a bunch of food tokens, sacrifice those food tokens to get benefits like gaining life that allows you to draw cards, or gaining life that allows you to drain your opponent. And if you can chip away at them with your creatures or create a blocking force, that's fantastic. But the more that you can get on the battlefield, the more that you can kind of get those combos going, so that you do one thing and it triggers this, which triggers that, which triggers the next thing. And that's kind of what this deck is about. We didn't even, actually I totally forgot we never got Sam into play, and that would have been good too. But with all of that said, I am going to do one last flip through of the deck if you would like to take a look. But I'm going to do that no talking. So before I do that, I have to take this opportunity to thank you again for 50 subscribers, to thank you again for a Magic the Gathering video at 500 views on the Ravnica video, and a Pokemon video with 500 views. I think that is just incredible and really exciting and means a lot. And if you want to see more, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button and maybe hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. If you have a commander deck that you play, I would love to know if you've got a favorite addition or any changes that you would make to what I've done to this. Please do let me know down below. What do you think? Do you like these deck walkthrough videos? Do you want to see more of them? Do you want to see something else? Do you want to see more packs get cracked? Let me know. I'd love to hear it. But until then, whether this was your chance to focus, whether this was your attempt to have some background noise on, to relax, or if you were trying to fall asleep, I hope you got whatever you wanted out of this video. I had a wonderful time sharing my commander deck with you. And here is one last look at the MaplePi upgraded Sam and Frodo Lord of the Rings deck. Remember to be kind and lead with love. It's a crazy world out there, so I'm super grateful for you taking the time to appreciate a shared love for trading cards and Magic the Gathering with me. Can't wait to see you next time. So I go ahead and finish up shooting this video, and I go downstairs and I go to make myself a snack. And I make my snack and I'm enjoying my snack, and I check YouTube and I get this lovely comment, and I'm reading it and it made me smile. And the comment was telling me about this person whose favorite guilds were Azorius and Rakdos and Demir, and that they love Bob. Bob being Dark Confidant. And I said, that's so cool. Or I thought, oh, that's so cool, because the video that I just finished recording has Bob in it. And then I finished eating my snack and was thinking some more about that lovely, kind comment, and it occurred to me that Bob never showed up in this video, even though he intended to. So I took a look, and I think one of these things makes sense to be replaced for Bob. One of them is also a 2-mana, 2/1, so fits the role in that regard, but is the only other Ring Tempts You in the deck. This one is, I think, quite thematically accurate for the deck, but 1 more mana and does the card advantage part of Dark Confidant. I just don't know. I really don't want to take... I don't love this card. Like, I don't think it's fantastic, other than flavor. It's not a, like, linchpin for the deck in any way. It's not a VIP card, a part of some powerhouse combo in the deck in any way, but it is the only other the Ring Tempts You, which has me hesitant to remove it. So you know what? As much as Mentor of the Meek fits well and is a pretty lovable magic card, I do think it is going to come out. And Mr. Bob, is it even Bob if it doesn't look like Bob from the original? My brain is almost filled in the name of a video game. From the original Modern Masters. From the Activision game. Could you imagine? Dark Confidant running around in a Call of Duty game. Okay, well, that should just go to show you how tired I am and why this guy got forgotten. And now that this video is sufficiently, 4 hours long or something crazy. So yeah, if you were this person, thanks so much for messaging me. And if you were this person, thanks so much for the idea. I hope you enjoyed this. I have another one planned, and that's going to be the other deck, the other mystery deck that was in the blue box that I let you all know to take a guess down below. Yeah, what Precon do you think that is? And, well, yeah. Yeah. I'm just leaving that. I'm just leaving that. I'm trying to be authentic and me, and this is sleepy, goofy me. I hope you've had a relaxing time. Bob made it into the deck. We got Sam, Frodo, and Bob heading on to Mordor. Yeah. Did you enjoy the Lord of the Rings Universes Beyond? I did. I really appreciate you hanging out. I really appreciate your engagement. If you let me know, what would you change in the deck? What would you keep the same? Would you cut the cards that I cut? This has been the longest outro ever, and if I don't say goodbye, I'm just going to keep yapping. So, goodbye.